welcome to another episode of Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr., recorded today, May 21st, 2022. And we have a great guest with us today. We have always talked about on our show what we could do to protect ourselves from cyber crimes and cyber threats. And today I have a guest on my show that I would like to share with my viewers and listeners, Councilwoman Pamela Goynes Brown. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Mac, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So on my show, we talk about cybersecurity awareness for our viewers and our listeners. The cyber threats are going around the country, things people can do to protect themselves.
Yes.
And I've been talking about it for years on the show, and I wanted to make sure that I have a leader in our community that we can talk about these type of cyber threats and what the residents can do to protect themselves from type of cyber threats. Could you tell us about some of the cybersecurity recommendations that you would recommend for our viewers?
Well, we have an awesome IT department that works with the city of North Las Vegas that helps to protect us as a government agency. So what I can do is just go into some things that people can do in their personal homes.
Excellent.
Just to make sure that they are protecting themselves.
That's exactly what we talk about. Perfect.
And in my IT world, we call that good cybersecurity hygiene.
Absolutely.
And so I would just advise residents, you know, when you get those phishing emails or those fake emails, if it looks funny or, you know, they have characters typed wrong, or you get a text message or an email like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, those are all suspicious to me. And so if I would not open those, I would not recommend you opening those at all. And then they have something that's called smishing or text messages.
Absolutely.
If you're not sure who it's from, don't open it. Just delete it. There's no harm in deleting something, because if it's genuine and it's actual, you'll know. If you don't feel comfortable about it, or you have, you know, that second where you're like, I wonder who that is, then that's your red flag to tell you not to open it.
It's really interesting about that too, those messages. My mother would get phone calls from companies pretending to be Amazon, right? And they will say, oh, you have a cell phone and you order, we need to confirm your order. And you know, please confirm with your credit card number, you know, things like, and that's affecting our senior citizens as well. And they hear these calls and, you know, they're thinking, oh wow, this is a legitimate company that's calling us, not knowing that these are scam artists. They're trying to get our personal data, right?
Absolutely, they're trying to steal your personal data. And I have a personal story. I had a credit card charge on one of my credit cards for $9,000.
Wow.
And it took me a while to catch it. I'm like, I just paid the balance off. Why do I have a balance? And looked back through the charges that were on there. First of all, they were from another country, and then they had one letter spelled wrong in my name and one letter wrong in my address. So that was an immediate red flag for me. So I contacted the credit card company, and after they did research, of course they had to refund that back to my credit card, but they were like, someone just stole all your information. So they took care of it, changed the card number, sent me a new card and everything like that. So glad. You have to be very vigilant, and you have to look at your statements, because a lot of times we get our statements online and we just look at the balance and we click, click, click. So you have to take the time to go through those statements to make sure that the charges on there are actually legitimate. And then also, you just mentioned about those social engineering phone calls. If you know you didn't order something, or you know I don't have a new cell phone from Amazon or from whoever, then sometimes just be kind on the phone and say, thank you, I'm not interested, or I'm not going to do this, or simply just hang up, because they cannot force you to stay on the phone. And then, you know, we all have a zillion passwords. And with your passwords, I would just suggest that you make them 10 characters or longer. Use a phrase, and I wrote down one that says, Mickey Mouse is my favorite Disney character of all, $23 sign.
That's perfect. See, folks, exactly what we're talking about. Passphrase over a password. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I can remember that, and I can just do the letters of each letter of the first word, and there's my password. But that's something that's, you know, that's sacred to me. Nobody else knows that, and you want to make it as difficult as you possibly can for someone to come in and hack your account. So that's very, very important.
Very true.
And I'd also like to encourage a multi-factor identification process when you're logging into your phones, your computers. Have more than one way that they can verify that it's actually you.
Let's talk about that for a minute. How could you explain to the users how they could use multi-factor? What does that mean to the actual user?
What it actually means, if I'm on my computer and I log in, I use my password, and then they will say, is this really you? And then there's some other method. You put a code, they'll send you a code, or there's another password that you can use to put in, and that's going to verify that this is actually me who's trying to log into my own account. So that's just another way to protect you, another layer of protection.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Very good, very good.
Yeah. And so when you're at home, we all love our gadgets and our toys at home. You know, if you have Wi-Fi, and I am so guilty of this, is if my friends come over and they're like, I need your Wi-Fi code, sure, here's my Wi-Fi code. I trust that you're my friend.
Right.
But I don't know where you came before my house. You could have been in a public place. You could have been anywhere where you have access to some other Wi-Fi. And so I'm just giving you my Wi-Fi code because I know you're my trusted friend.
Exactly.
It's not that I don't trust you. I don't know where that phone has been before you came. So be very careful when you're giving out your Wi-Fi to your friends and even your family members that come over to your house.
And that's a good point too. In the story I have for you with that one, I have a client that has a student in school, and they have other students that would come over to the house to share homework, right? So they will come over to the family's home and they would need to have access to the internet. So they ask, Dad, what's our Wi-Fi password so I can give it to my friend so they can log into the internet? Well, what they did is they did that, and one day they were gone on vacation, but the other child needed to have access to the internet. Well, his house, he couldn't utilize it, the network was down. So he takes his bike over to his friend's house and he's outside on the sidewalk, and he's able to log in and have internet access. So I was telling them the best way to protect themselves is within the router, is to do a thing called two-band. It's a two-band authorization, right? So you have one for guest, and you have your main password. So you have one for the guest password. When friends, family come over, they want to have access to your Wi-Fi, you can give them the guest login, but the main one you don't share. And that'll be a way to protect you, because right now, lots of businesses as well as homes are having devices in their home, right? IoT, Internet of Things. Their security systems, their assistant, their Alexa systems set up in their home. And all that's connected to the internet and share that same password access to the internet. So they need to have that separated by having a different password to get into it. So that's what I advise my clients do.
Now, may I ask you a question?
Please.
So with the Google Home or the Alexa devices, are they actually listening to your conversations?
That is very interesting. There's a lot of research going on about that, if they actually listen or not. And there is a couple of legal cases going on with Amazon and Alexa. Matter of fact, a couple of attorney generals, I believe it's Arkansas and Pennsylvania or somewhere in the Northeast, they actually have subpoenaed Amazon and asked them about Alexa because there was a murder and the device was in the room and they wanted to know, did the device listen? So now the companies have that question asked. If they say, yes, it was listening and this is what it said, that will jeopardize marketing, right? Now people think, oh, wow, I'm not buying this device. But if they don't comply, then they're not helping out in an actual murder case.
Oh my goodness.
So it's interesting. Cybersecurity researchers are looking into that, and of course these companies are trying to decide if they want to give that information out. So the best thing to do is if you're not using it, to turn it off. I have one for my mother. She loves it. She uses it to recite Bible verses. Alexa does that for her. It's really nice for that. But when you're not using it, you can unplug it if you're unsure, because sometimes it does listen, because it has to. It has to listen for its name, just like your child in your home.
Right, when you say Alexa and tell it whatever. And I just find it interesting, or I am in my room, or I'm on shopping, or I'm looking at something, or I log onto my laptop, and there's an ad for the same thing that I'm just discussing, or I'm like, so how does this happen? So is there a camera in my house, spying in my own house? So I just wonder about those things.
Yeah, even with Facebook, they've said that, our devices, we don't listen on your phone. They're saying that they don't, but it's really kind of ironic that you'll mention something about a wedding or whatever, and next thing you know, you get these ads about weddings or whatever you're talking about. It's kind of interesting.
So I would just advise, do everything you possibly can to protect yourself.
And as well as another thing to throw in here too is laptops. To make sure that the little cameras that are on your laptops, the webcams, to make sure that they are covered on the actual laptops, and even your tablets too. You have a little camera, little webcams, if you could buy little devices from Amazon that you can use to cover the actual camera, and it can slide open when you want to use it and close it when you don't want to use it. Or the old-fashioned way is take some duct tape and cover it up with duct tape. Because as a programmer and hacker, I have seen situations where people have had their machines hacked into and those cameras have been turned on.
Well, I learned something today. Interesting. That makes good sense. And what is your feeling about the facial recognition on your phones?
Facial recognition is absolutely amazing, but it's scary as well. It's very scary. It's in its infancy stages right now that facial recognition is being used. A lot of countries, especially over in China, are using it to survey their citizens and their residents. Here in the States, it's been used several times by law enforcement to look for people in stadiums and would scan across and identify their face and notice that there was a warrant out for that person and be able to find them. It has its good parts and its bad parts right now. Right now, it's more experimental, but a lot of businesses are using it, and some parts of law enforcement are using it. There still needs to be more research on it to see if it's something that we really want to have in our society, because it can be used in a bad way as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good information.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes.
That's for sure.
And then just as, I don't know, as far as what we're doing for the city of North Las Vegas and in the city of North Las Vegas, just recently we have approved an agreement between the city and it's called SOCAAS, and my level of technology is very low.
Acronyms.
But, this acronym is for Security Operations Center as a Service, and these are vendors, also a vendor with multi-factor authentication, and this is just so we can protect the city and its assets. And so our IT department uses a CIS Top 18 framework for cybersecurity. I'm sure you know more about that than I do.
Yes,
so
it's very secure.
Yes. So I feel comfortable when I'm in my workspace when I'm logging on, but I know we have probably a very high level of protection because we deal with so many various things and budgets and contracts and those type of things. So we have to be extremely protected at the city. Absolutely,
because every hour, every minute, around the world, hackers are trying to break through the wall. If you think of the city data and information within each city municipality surrounded by a brick wall. And on the outside, you have hackers trying to chisel away to get through. Some of them are using a chisel to get through. Others are using an old technique like a water hose, using water. And they may not break through it in the first day, but as water is being poured onto a porous surface, eventually there'll be a crack, right? And the water will get through. That's from Bruce Lee.
Gotcha.
Think like water, right? So that's
a good one.
That's one of the ways how hackers can get through. In other words, they will take as long as they need. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, it could be in 6 months or a year.
Because they're just kind of sitting back, are they trying to wait for a weak point, or
they're looking for vulnerability. They're waiting for vulnerability. And usually that vulnerability comes in the form of not the hardware, but the human factor.
Yes.
The human factor.
Yes.
You could always look for the human factor and a mistake that we as humans, what we make, and then hackers will take advantage of it and try to exploit it.
And I just feel like we are always like 2 steps behind those hackers and people that work in the cyber world, because technology moves so fast. It's like, can you ever catch up or stay on top of what's going on out there?
True, and one of the ways that's, you're right, it feels like that we're behind on it, but we actually are ahead of them. What's happening is that as citizens, we spend our day doing our lives and being productive in our work, right, in our jobs and our lives. We don't think about being attacked, having a hack attack happen, right? But there are hackers that spend 24/7 looking for vulnerabilities. There's training camps, there's nation states, college courses in nation states to train young kids as research projects to try to attack citizens over in the U.S. or other Western states. And we don't have that here. We have a moral, ethical way of living our lives, to do our payroll, to do our accounting, and not think about that. But they're looking at it, the bad guys are looking at any weaknesses that they could see in that porous wall and using that water hose trying to get through.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So our best protection of this always is through education.
Yes.
The education, that's our best defense. I say it all the time on my show. Our best defense is through education and learning what we can do to protect ourselves. Because you'll learn something today, and I'm telling you, Pamela, in the next 6 months, what I've taught you today, tomorrow, is totally different because the hackers have found a way around it.
It's just like, and I understand, but I'm like, to study something that in depth to ruin someone's life, it's immoral. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's absolutely, definitely immoral. But as cybersecurity researchers, what we have done is actually use that as a positive, a way to hardening our systems to make them even better. Because now we have the bad guys looking for ways to break into our systems. Now we're taking their techniques that they've done and using it to strengthen our systems and make them even better. They have actually helped us because they're finding things that we didn't even think of. Just think of having a tall building of windows, right? In a building, and and you lock it up every night. But unbeknownst to you, on the 5th floor, there's a window that's open. If the hacker sees it, you're thinking, man, if I can get through that way, I can get into the building. Yeah. And that's what we need to do. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. We need to make sure that window's locked, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So it helps us look for any types of vulnerabilities to let our people know to protect ourselves.
Awesome.
Neat stuff.
Well, I appreciate the work that you do to keep us safe. So
thank you.
And the research that I'm sure that you like that kind of stuff, though.
Yes,
I'm sure you find lots of intriguing things out there, or I don't know, with all the hacks and the tricks to try and to see if they actually work to keep us safe. You know?
The stories that we run into as cybersecurity researchers are absolutely amazing. It's like living a CSI episode almost every week.
But this is real.
This is
not
real.
TV, yes.
Right, this is real stuff that's going, what hackers are trying to do, especially what's going on right now, the war that's happening over Ukraine and Russia, the cyber attacks that are happening across our country. We definitely need to be prepared for it and to, protect our assets from these types of cyber threats. And it starts just not from government officials, but also the mom and pops at home. Sure. Because the hackers will find the low-hanging fruit.
Yep. Yeah.
One more thing we'll talk about, cell phones.
Cell phones.
Yes.
Well, and that's a tool that we all have, but still you have to protect yourself on your cell phones as well. And you can also use that to multi-factor identification to even log onto your cell phone.
Right.
If you're using facial ID or you're just putting a password in, don't give it your password. And I'm so bad about that because I'm like, and I say to myself or other people, I have nothing to hide. But then I'm opening myself up, but I need to protect myself even more. Yes. But I mean, and if you're like on public Wi-Fi's and those type of things, it's okay to be on a public Wi-Fi when you have to. But don't do stuff like your banking where you're open to, your accounts are open, or you're shopping where you're putting in credit cards on these public Wi-Fi's, because that's just, you're setting yourself up to somebody to come in and steal your identity or hack into your accounts, and they're gone on a shopping spree, and you don't even, by the time you realize it, it's too late. They've already charged, tons of charges on your card. So just be very careful and very vigilant when you're using your cell phones.
Absolutely. I also recommend to our clients that they have to use public Wi-Fi, and that means have to make sure they have 2 pieces of equipment or applications on their smart device. One of them is a VPN, virtual private network, and the other one is antivirus software. Like I ask my clients all the time, when I talk about antivirus software, everybody understands what that is. It's what you have on your laptop or your desktop. But if you ask them if they have antivirus software on their smartphone, wow, I didn't know that. They don't have it on their smartphone.
Right.
And I think of the smartphone back to the Austin Powers. Remember the Austin Powers movie?
Yes.
And you have Dr. Evil, and his assistant was called Mini-Me, right? So think of your smartphone as the Mini-Me.
Okay.
Dr. Evil is your laptop. The bad guys will always go after the Mini-Me, their small device, because they know that people aren't aware of having apps like that on their smartphones, their smart devices, right? So if you have antivirus software on your smartphone, that will be low-hanging fruit, because if hackers can attack your phone, then you get malware on your phone, and then you take your phone into your company.
You're right.
Now you're past the firewall and you're thinking, wow, my phone's down. I need to get on Facebook to check my social media. Why? I'm going to plug it into my desktop to charge it.
Okay.
Now malware transfers from the phone over to the network. And that's what drives IT departments crazy, because they're like, we have a strong system to protect ourselves. How do we get this malware on? Well, the human factor didn't know that it shouldn't plug it into any device like that versus just plug it into the wall. So plug into the wall.
Yeah, that comes with that education piece. But I mean, for your average person, they know what they know. Right. And so just to educate them on just small things that they can do to make sure they're protecting themselves without getting too technical in terms that they don't understand. So
yes, and that's something, you're right, that's something I'm guilty of as well. Being in IT and being
you
technical.
You speak IT, I don't.
And we're trying to make sure that we're speaking the language they can understand, because you're right, it can be very. And the last one is a VPN, virtual private network. What that does, it cloaks your device, your smart device, when you're on a non-secured Wi-Fi, so it cannot be seen by hackers. It gives you extra layer of protection. So if you think of it as a force field, if you would, around your device. So if you're at a coffee shop or a hotel room and you have to log into a network system, having a VPN will give you an extra layer of protection. Again, nothing's 100%, but it's best to have a VPN versus not having anything and logging to a hotspot system that doesn't have any passwords.
Interesting. And is it okay, because I live my life through my cell phone, my laptop, and my iPad. Is it okay to share all the information within your same device circle? Because like if I leave my cell phone downstairs, I know everything's on my iPad, so if I'm upstairs, I can access that without having to run back and forth. So
that's all good,
okay.
because your data is stored in the cloud.
Okay.
Clouds, which really means someone else's computer. Your data is someone else's computer, and it's secured because the cloud companies that are managing your data that you can have access on all your devices, they're spending their time 24/7 on protecting the data.
Okay.
See, like the bad guys are spending their time on how to get our data. On our side, these cloud services spend their time on protecting our data. So it allows us to do what we need to do and gives us extra layer of protection. But again, nothing 100% because they've been hacked as well. Even the major companies have gone through being hacked. And of course, government agencies as well have been hacked. And I have clients that will say, well, why should I be concerned? I'm just a little guy. But maybe you work for a large company.
Right.
Social engineering will get you there.
Yeah.
So that's a little protection that way.
Okay.
Yeah, so that said, let's talk about some other good news in a few minutes we have remaining, and that's about your mayoral campaign.
Well, absolutely. I am running to be the next mayor for the city of North Las Vegas.
Congratulations, that's wonderful.
And many of you know our current mayor, John Lee, is not running for re-election, and so the timing is perfect for me to take my public service to the next level.
Absolutely.
I am just ready to do that. I'm so excited to do it. I've been on the council since 2011, and I have been with the city. This is home. My family came here in 1964, so I've seen over the decades how the city of North Las Vegas has grown, and just to be a part of that is just, it's undescribable in the fact that when you actually see change happening and to know that you are a part of it, it's just a feeling like no other. It just gives me joy. And then, when I first came on council, North Las Vegas was really struggling. We were on the brink of financial ruin, and the state's like, well, we can put you in receivership, or, we're like, they didn't know what that looked like for us because it hasn't happened historically. I don't believe it has. And so we took that challenge and we said, failure is not an option. Right on. And so we had over $150 million deficit that we had to step by step climb out of, and it's taken almost 8 years to get where we are today. And then COVID hits a couple years ago, and a little stumbling step, and so we are on the most perfect trajectory in my eyes to bring North Las Vegas back and make it Southern Nevada's fiscal champion. And so we are so super busy. Every day there's something new. We are approving business licenses, and we are issuing building permits. We're focusing a lot on our small businesses, and public safety is always going to be first and foremost in my headspace, because I think it's a huge umbrella, and I'm not just talking about police and fire, but just overall public safety in our communities. Right. And so we are just increasing by leaps and bounds in North Las Vegas, and one of the most exciting things is we celebrate our diverse community. We're one of the largest minority cities in the state, and we just want to represent people of all ethnicities, all backgrounds, and it feels good that we have a very diverse workforce at City Hall right now, and we're able to hire qualified candidates to work for us, and it's a happy place to be and a happy time to be in North Las Vegas, so I love it.
That's very good. Yes. And also the jobs North Las Vegas is creating. You have some huge high-tech companies that are coming here to Las Vegas.
Yes, and we are, we talked to Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies. We're also doing a grand opening ceremony for Air Liquide next week, which is, it's just going to put North Las Vegas on the map. We have, and a lot of people say, well, I just see a lot of warehouses going up in North Las Vegas. But then people say we need to bring all these high-tech jobs to North Las Vegas. Those jobs require space. And so the warehouses that we have that are already open, I would say they're probably 95 to 100% leased. And the ones that are under construction, they'll be in that same boat, because people are knocking on that door saying, what, when are you opening? We need to come in and set up shop. And they require thousands and thousands of square footage to set up their shop and, bring their product here. Neuro is an autonomous car. That the actual car is not going to be built here in North Las Vegas, but we'll be building the parts for the car.
That is
And so if you call me up and say, Neuro, I want a pizza, we can do that. Put that pizza in that autonomous car, and with a certain radius, it will deliver it right to you.
That's amazing, folks.
That is talk about high tech.
Yes, that is.
That is amazing. And I saw that little car, and he just has so much personality. I'm like, you're talking to a computer, but it was just fun just to know that that technology is here and it is actual in real time. So.
And again, it's going to create thousands
and thousands of jobs. And these jobs are high-paying jobs. They're sustainable jobs, so you're not struggling. You'll be able to take care of your families and provide for your families because you have a good paying job that's only going to change and it's going to diversify our community.
Wow. That's absolutely fascinating.
I'm just excited.
Yes, that is.
And I just, to see these things under my leadership, it's just going to be, because we have a great council and our vision, we're looking 20, 30 years down the line. And so we have a great vision, and I just want to see that come to fruition.
That is really good. You've done some really great works for the city of North Las Vegas, and definitely continue on your great efforts with it. I definitely appreciate being on our show today.
Well, thank you for having me. And I learned so much, and I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg, because I'm sure there's so much more. Thank you for sharing the information that I didn't know, and I hope you all out there as well learned something today.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Thank you again, Pamela Goynes-Brown, for being our guest today on Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson. And folks, as we say every week, we'll be right back after these messages. Hello, folks. This is Mac Jackson Jr. from Vanderson Cyber Group. The problem with businesses today is that they are affected by cyber attacks from around the world, but companies are not sure of what to do. Normally, they are reactive instead of proactive. But folks, cyber attacks can affect your bottom line, and it will affect you financially, legally, and your business reputation. Here at Vanderson Cyber Group, we can help you develop a policy by training your employees on what to do if they are involved in a cyber attack and how to mitigate it and fight against it. Folks, we call it here #StayCyberWoke. And that's Vanderson Cyber Group here in Las Vegas and around the world. You can reach me, folks, at VandersonCyberGroup.com or my website, MacJacksonJr.com as well. Here locally, 702-868-0808. Give us a call today, folks. We must fight back. Hi folks, welcome back to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. Boy, did I have a great interview with Councilwoman Pamela Goynes-Brown from the city of North Las Vegas. A lot of great information about how to protect yourself as a resident here in North Las Vegas from cyber hackers. Definitely check out this video. Again, if you need to contact her, please do. And for contacting me, here's my information, folks. You can find me at MacJacksonJr.com. That's MacJacksonJr.com. And I can help you with your cybersecurity awareness questions and information on how to protect yourself and your family. Also, you can go to my company's website, and that's Vanderson Cyber Group. And at Vanderson Cyber Group, we will help you design policies and procedures, folks, to protect your business from cyber crimes and cyber hacker. And that's all our show for this week, folks. We want to thank all of our guests again for being a part of it. You can find us here each and every week on WWDBTV, and I'm also on the Roku network, folks, here on Cybersecurity Awareness TV. Until then, folks, like I always say, #StayCyberWoke.